Well, I grew up in church. Mom took us on Sunday morning, Sunday night, and Wednesday nights. Wednesday nights were RAs and choir practice. At age 16, I got saved, had a gospel music concert. Then in the year of 2000, I was blessed enough to get a job with Tony Gore and Majesty singing baritone. And I did that for a couple of years. In 2000 also, I married my first wife. In 2001, we had our first little girl named Madison. Then in 2002, I came off the road full time. I felt like I couldn't be the dad that I needed to be, and that was the right decision. In 2004, we had our other little girl, Macy Lynn, who is another blessing. A couple of years after that, my wife and I began drifting apart. In 2008, I decided that it was time that she and I got a divorce, and in the midst of that, I left two little girls without a dad full time, and the guilt of that was extremely difficult to deal with. And so those first few lonely nights, I began self-medicating with alcohol. And from that point forward, it was just a revolving door. The guilt made me drink. The drinking every single time made me feel more guilty. And it was just a revolving door. Guilt and drinking. Drinking, guilt. Guilt, drinking. And in 2011, I married Erin. She is an absolute blessing. I know for a fact that she was sent by God to me. I think that He knew the situation. He knew where we were going to end up. And it was designed that I marry her. She was that constant in my life when I did not allow God to be the constant in my life. Erin was the standard that I was always relatively jealous of. But even through all that, I still drank and still felt guilty. And then in 2015, I moved and left my two beautiful little girls 2.5 hours away. And that just added more guilt. In 2017, our little boy Parker was born, and he is just a wonderful part of our lives. But I kept drinking. And so now the guilt of raising another kid incorrectly and not being the father that I should be just added more and more guilt. And in 2019, I found myself at the lowest I had ever been. I was physically exhausted, mentally exhausted, and spiritually dry. At no time did I ask God for guidance. At no time did I turn to Him. At no time did I allow Him to work inside me. I still sang all the time. I went to church every Sunday, but I never allowed Him to be the Lord of my life. Now, to look at me, I had it all together. At work, I had it all together. When I sang, I had it all together. When you talked to me, most of the time, I was a put-together guy. But on the inside was just an absolute turmoil, a spiritual wreck. On March the 15th of 2019, I was standing at my bed after a very long couple of days. And I was standing there and I looked at my wife and my son sitting in a recliner in the living room. And the sight of them sitting there, knowing that my wife was worried, my wife was tired. She was exhausted from having to deal with me for years. And I knew that I could not take one more step under my own strength. I knew that I could not do this anymore. You know, every day I woke up and said, I'm not going to drink today, then I'd drink. Every day I'd wake up and go, I'm going to be a better father. I would just resort right back to the same stuff that I did the day before. But that day I literally couldn't move. The only thing that came to my mind to say was Jesus. And immediately the chains fell off. The guilt was completely gone. At that moment, He became Lord of my life. At that moment, I began living for Him, wanting to have a relationship with Him that He desired from me all along. The only way that I can describe it is the peace that passes all understanding. I was the chief sinner. I was the worst of the worst. That day, He just laid His peace upon me, and it removed the guilt. I thank Him every morning for the fact that He delivered me from alcohol. That day, He became Lord of my life, and my life has not been the same since. There is a peace in my life that I can't explain. When I used to worry about everything, I don't worry, I don't fret over things anymore. God has worked everything out for His glory, and He's worked everything out for my good. My soul mission now is to tell my story, to tell what the Lord has done for me. The other thing that I want to bring up is, regardless of how you look on the outside, regardless of how well put together you are, if you have a sin in your life, if you haven't dealt with it, if you haven't given it to the Lord to remove, then that sin's going to win. And you'll end up in the same spot I was, flat of your back, physically and mentally exhausted and spiritually dry. If that's you, I hope one day you allow Him to love you the way He wants to love you.